And we're live.
Hello.
Hello.
La, la, la. Hello, all. Welcome. It is Monday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and I think we may have some even more new people tuning in this evening.
Yeah, we seem to have some new people. Welcome, new people. Welcome.
Yes, welcome new people. And if you are watching, make sure you get over.
Welcome, old people.
Yes.
And old by been here a while, not age reference. I take that seriously.
Well, we do have.
we have a wide age range.
Are you being ageist already? It didn't take too long.
I'm ageist. I'm ableist. I'm all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like no matter what. No. Whenever I say you people, it's always about a very specific thing at a very specific time. You people. Like it could be whatever I'm talking about. It could be if I'm at a board meeting and I feel like they're not listening, it's you people. If I'm at it's whoever it is.
It's kind of like you said, you gotta go on offense. You cannot be apologizing for everything, which is what everyone feels they need to do in the very PC world that we live in today.
We're out of whack. I feel like we need to move this way. No.
Wrong. Right.
No, this way. Yeah.
I
there.
did.
Okay.
There you go. Now you're in the middle.
Now I'm good.
Stuck in the middle with you.
Stuck in the middle with you. So what are we starting with? Do you say you want to start with Kamala?
Camel?
Kamala?
Camel cigarettes?
Kamala?
I think.
Because I'm sure that this whole thing with her is lending itself to a certain amount of speculation based on why is she rearing her head and can she really put three coherent sentences together without a really well done script?
So that'll just we'll improvise.
Okay.
So I think a lot of you who have obviously been paying attention to what's going on, things are really heating up now. I don't know how one is going to take this, but we're not even going to drop it. We're just going to play through so you get an idea.
It's very short because she really can't say much.
No, but obviously it was clearly rehearsed very carefully.
Oh.
So the vice president was in Selma, Alabama for an anniversary of the
bridge.
The bridge.
The William Pettis Bridge. I think that's what the name of the bridge.
And so she took this opportunity to say that we need a ceasefire temporary. But, considering how the rhetoric has been going.
Look, there's a range of thoughts. On the one hand, the fact that the word ceasefire was mentioned from somebody in the administration shows that it is pushing them, okay? Like it shows. Now, does that ultimately change the course of events? No.
Probably not.
And then there's going to probably be people, and again, I'm not on social media, but you'll tell me if this is correct. Are people now going to be speculating that this is a stunt to try to swap Kamala for Joe?
I think that's the conversation I have after this.
Okay.
All right, so here we go.
Given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire. For at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table. This will get the hostages out and get a significant amount of aid in.
But what is the point if your intention is to just start up again in 6 weeks? And we all know that they could just start at any time. Who's to say if you know that the line is 6 weeks that they're not going to start in 3 weeks?
And quite honestly, at this point, I have a lot of problems with the whole concept of even using the term ceasefire. You guys know I say words matter, and ceasefire implicates a war, and that's just not what this is.
No, this is killing. This is killing fields.
This is a genocide, an intentional ethnic cleansing, and that's what we're watching. So to say ceasefire is very misleading. So I know that's like sort of, we've all kind of locked onto that as like a protest sort of word, but I really wish we hadn't. But anyway, at this point though, the concept of a ceasefire now, that's too late as far as any political sort of tides turning for them, right? Like they could have done it last week and it's still too late. That ship sailed. But the concept that they're standing here saying that they want a ceasefire when everything they've said they've wanted every step of the way has been blatantly disregarded by Israel, and yet they continue to keep sending money and weapons. And so now what? We're sending an aid with the weapons. So here we're gonna bomb you and starve you, but we'll throw you a little bit of food here. This is the most ridiculous thing. I can't even like it's just so absurd. It's not a ceasefire.
It's finishing up.
This would allow us to build something more enduring, to ensure Israel is secure, and to respect the right of the Palestinian people to dignity, freedom, and self-determination.
So basically what they're saying is they want their cake and eat it too. That's what they're saying.
I would like everyone to also note, and this is something that was pointed out to me. What's the woman's name who's the White House press secretary? Jean-Pierre.
Karine Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre. About her, when she gave whatever her statement was very recently, wherein she kept tripping over her words because it's very clear that they were told they are not to use the word Palestine. They're not allowed to say Palestine.
You could say Palestinians, but
you could say Palestinian, but you cannot say Palestine. No. And you watch them like tripping over their words. You watch the headlines where they're saying Palestinians dead in Rafah. They don't say where Rafah is. They don't say who's doing the killing. Like, all of this is very intentional and very gaslighting, but we're watching it happen. I mean, seriously, the 90s called. They want their strategy back. I don't know how they think they can lie to us about what's going on.
Yeah, the other problem with the vice president is that it's a couple of things to keep in mind here. She was extremely prepped for and scripted for this statement.
Well, I think because every time she's ever gone on, anytime I've seen her do an interview where she doesn't have something or prepared, she comes off like an idiot. And I know she's not an idiot.
There's no question that, and Josh is correct, that any type of a stoppage would obviously be beneficial. The only problem is that we've seen this time and time again, that if there is any type of a stoppage, it's going to start up again, because their intention is already set in motion. And the reason why I am not convinced that any of this is really going to change anything is simply this, and this was announced by Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! Earlier today, that it has now been reported. Again, could the numbers be exaggerated to some degree slightly? Perhaps, but I know what's real, and I know that the report is up to 1 million Palestinians are now suffering from famine-related diseases. That's pretty effing serious, if you ask me.
And it isn't one of those things, once you get to a certain point with famine, it isn't a matter of dropping off food. You get to the point with a famine where the people physically are so malnourished that they can no longer even ingest regular food.
Yeah, the damage is done.
Yeah.
Like, the long-term effects of what's going to come from it is going to be absolutely insane.
And so, like everything else, where pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, what would have been, we want a ceasefire, is now, this is not over until the occupation is over and there is one democratic state from the river to the sea, and it is not a Jewish ethno-state. That is the only way this ends. It's not a ceasefire. We don't want a ceasefire. Ceasefire indicates there's a war. We would like for the nation state of Israel to stop committing a genocide. Yeah, we're seeking a cease genocide, okay? Because there is no war. Stop using language that implicates this is a war.
Tony, great to see you, and congrats on 2 months. Great to have you.
Kamala can't really go off script.
I don't think she's capable.
No.
I also think that the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that I think that part of the reason she was brought out to say that and not Joe is because they are testing the waters to see if she would be capable of two things. One, potentially being the nominee, or two, dare I say, taking over for him.
Well, right. I would not be surprised if, like, right now there's polling going on. Like, somebody let me know if anybody gets a current, like, if anybody within like the next day or so, pay attention if you get like a poll on Kamala, because I think that's what they're doing. They're going to put out there.
How does the vice president go out there and make that statement before the president does?
Because he's not capable. And the thing is, and although she's really not either.
Could you imagine a situation where Mike Pence went out there and said, and he totally would not do that over my head?
No, well, that just really shows you how incapable they really feel Joe is. But the thing about Kamala is her numbers are already lower than his, and this is certainly not anything that's going to help her numbers. So I don't know. I mean, I would be very surprised if any polling they did showed them that, yeah, it would make a good idea to slip Kamala in there. That'll just solve all our problems.
I think that this is, again, Point being, and we're going to obviously cover this as we go forward into the evening, but it is pretty obvious to me from where I stand that the reason that this statement is even being made is because clearly what they're doing is working. If you are going to have the type of consistency, because that's always the problem, especially with populist left movements, there's no consistency. You have one great event and then it just dissipates. It doesn't last. Now, what you're seeing is overt consistency. You have you've even said, the one thing that federally elected representatives hate more than anything else is having to deal with the commoners. And so when the commoners start showing up in the halls of Congress, that annoys them to no end. Why do you think Joe Manchin got up in that kid's face and wanted to get physical with him? Because he can't take it. He doesn't want to be, I want to live my
They don't want to have
life.
their dinners interrupted. They don't even want to be spoken to when they're walking the hallways of doing their job, which, by the way, is our employees. Those are our employees. They work for us. I don't understand what's going on. It's so upsetting when I see the way that they treat people talking to them so disrespectfully, so condescendingly when those are our employees. How dare they talk to us that way? Yeah. Seriously, people think about that. It's ridiculous.
Before we bring in Jenin, listen, Brian, I know you mean well. I know you're not trying to be incendiary, but just understand, a two-state solution, out.
I agree that they might think that in theory, but I want you to understand something. The people in Israel are more insulated from facts than we are here, even in terms of what they know is going on. And I do know most of them are fine with things the way they are, as long as they could just get their hostages back. I know that. But the bottom line is Israel has zero intention of ever conceding to Palestinians having a state. So as long they say that repeated, why don't people believe people when they say something? Someone tells you something, believe them. They've made it very clear they will not ever agree to the Palestinians having a state. So why do people keep talking about a two-state solution? They're never going to concede it. It must be taken from them. Okay, someone has to go be the grown-up in that room. I'm so tired of this. It's just off the wall.
Well, one thing we do know is that there's a lot of things that are eroding in terms of foreign policy, but in terms of domestic policy, we are losing our civil liberties every day. And this is something that's been gone by the wayside for a very long time. And it almost is like, as has been talked about many times before, this idea that we're just allowing this to happen. We welcome security at the expense of liberty. And very often that security doesn't even exist. It's just it's a fear.
Well, first of all, people think of security as generally a false sense of security, but that's not the point. And I'm someone who, I don't own a firearm. It's not my thing. But I'm not willing to forego any rights to say that something makes me feel safer. You see what I'm saying? And I don't have a firearm. So that it's not but it's just not okay with me to infringe on people's rights for someone else to just feel safer. And that's ultimately what this is about, because that's one of the bigger things with liberals. It's about feelings.
Well, we cannot deny that our civil liberties are being eroded. And unfortunately, on the one hand, it's being done by those that wield corporate special interest power. At the same time, we have what I consider to be the comfortable populace in this country that is willing to give it up, even though I still think that they know that it is affecting the working class of this country more than anybody else. And as I've always said, it's a class war, nothing more. And if anybody would know a thing or two about that, it would be Jenin Younes, who is part of the litigation council for the New Civil Liberties Alliance. And Lord knows if you're in the belly of the beast, which is Washington, D.C., you know a thing or two about giving up our rights like it's going out of style.
We lost a whole bunch. We've already lost some. We've lost quite a few, actually.
Jenin Younes, welcome to Generational Change.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So tell me a little bit about the kind of things that you're working on right now. I mean, and that would be a good way to sort of know what we're going to chat, because I'm sure you have some really interesting cases. There is no shortage of civil liberties infringements. I'm actually one of those dorks that read the Patriot Act. So I'm extremely familiar with, and most people in Congress didn't read it, but they voted for it. But I actually read that thing.
We have to pass it before we can read what
it was brutal. I could tell you that. It took me a while. But so what kind of stuff are you working on? What are the key issues that you think we should sort of be honing in on right now? It's always a battle.
Well, I do mostly free speech cases at this point, and my main cases right now have to do with the federal government's involvement in social media censorship. So sort of to put it succinctly, there's been a lot of efforts on the part of the federal government, especially the Biden administration, but there's also various agencies that have acted independently and even prior to Biden taking office putting pressure on, coercing, working with, encouraging kind of various types of entwinement with social media decisions about censorship. And so I represent 4 plaintiffs in one of these cases, which is called Murthy versus Missouri, and is about to be heard in the Supreme Court in 2 weeks from today, actually. And the allegation is basically that the plaintiffs' First Amendment rights were violated. They all were sort of COVID dissidents. They disagreed with government-imposed COVID restrictions. They actually are not, at least some of them are not political conservatives, although the case has been framed as a sort of conservative cause.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
And, so because the First Amendment case law says that the government can't use private parties to accomplish what it can't directly, the allegation is that the government has been sort of co-opting social media companies in order to censor people who express different views on various subjects on social media.
That's for sure. I mean, we've been shadow banned here. I mean, we have problems nonstop. I mean, I dared to do a telethon thing for Julian Assange when we first started this channel, and then that was sort of the end of that for us. But I mean, it's a constant battle. And, you know, while I have you here, let me ask you, what is your knowledge on the BDS, anti-BDS legislation in, like, I think it's 36 states now? Do you know of any of the updates on that, like how that is playing out? I know there was one in Texas where I think the woman actually won her case.
You know what? I haven't followed that extremely closely. I do know that there's been a lot of censorship of, you know, pro-Palestine views. Well, really for decades. My father's actually from the West Bank. I'm named after the city Jenin, where he's from.
Okay.
So of course I butchered your name. It's not Jenin, it's Jenin.
Yeah, but everybody does that.
Gringo.
You are a gringo. Okay.
But yeah, I've been paying attention to this issue since I was in college, and you know, I was actually a member of Students for Justice in Palestine, which many universities have shut down now by saying that it's anti-Semitic. So that's, you know, a huge civil liberties, free speech issue of this time. But yeah, I haven't kept up on the BDS legislation. I also happen to be on maternity leave right now. I have a 9-week.
Oh,
congratulations!
Oh, you look lovely. 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you look lovely. I think I still look like a house.
Jenin, what has been the consensus you're getting, without obviously naming anybody, but just being in DC and knowing how serious the Assange case is and the ramifications that will come as a result of our civil liberties dissipating, specifically the First Amendment? Do they understand the significance of prosecuting Julian at this point? Do they even though they're not really willing to say anything about it?
I would say that most people don't. I happen to be friends with a lot of people who do. Like Blumenthal. I don't know if you know him.
No, I know Max.
Yeah.
I know Max.
So, you know, people I'm around certainly get that. But I think there are a lot of people who genuinely believe that he poses a danger, and what he did poses a danger, which is, yeah, it's a terrible, terrible precedent to set.
Yeah. And I always say it's not even so much, I mean, it is to some extent our right to say things, like we have the right to say what we want to say, but there's this huge component of our public right to hear things and to get information of things. So I don't think that people understand the importance of that. And it's always from the perspective of my right to say whatever I want, which I do agree is important. But when we look at it from a perspective of prosecuting someone like Julian Assange, that's a violation of our right to know. That's a violation of our right to that information, which is really what the freedom of the press is about. It isn't so much about that we care that journalists have their rights to say what they want on the soapbox. It's so that the public has a right to know the stuff that we have a right to know. And that's what's so upsetting about the Assange thing, is it really has nothing to do with him personally, and they've made it that.
That's right. And actually, the First Amendment jurisprudence says that the right to obtain information is a sort of corollary of the First Amendment right to speak. So everybody's First Amendment rights are violated when the government is involved in censorship. And one of the reasons I like to tell people about the Murthy case is I think it sort of exemplifies why we have a First Amendment. Two of our clients are top epidemiologists, Jay Bhattacharya and Martin Kulldorff from Harvard and Stanford, who were censored because they dissented on lockdowns and mandates. They, they thought they weren't a good idea. They would do more harm than good. And the Biden administration and people in the NIH like Anthony Fauci were trying to get them censored so that the public got this idea that there was a consensus on these measures when actually there was a lot of dissent among scientists and people who specialize in the requisite fields. So the public really didn't get the full idea that there was there were a spectrum of viewpoints, there were debates on this subject, and that meant that there was sort of this view was imposed on the public that we had to adopt lockdowns, we had to do mask mandates and vaccine mandates. And so the debate that should have taken place just didn't.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the people who spoke out against anything at that time, it was like how the anti-war people are treated when they get let go of net. Like, you dared to speak out against the empire. And it very much felt like that to me. I'm against all bans and mandates. I just don't do bans and mandates. It's not my thing. But everybody politicized it so much that reason went out the window. Reason went out the window so early on with that chaos ensued. And as soon as I saw that happening, I'm like, oh yeah, this is over. We're no longer dealing with science and reason. Now we're just tribalizing actual pandemic.
But that's what happens when corporate special interests capture our government. I keep telling everybody, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, we deal with people that are on the left that think that, it's all the corporate element of, privatizing the entire system. Then people on the right will always say, well, it's the government that's completely destroyed the market. And my attitude is, no, actually, it's both. Corporate special interests run the government. It's that simple. And you're seeing it now. It's much easier to discern why did people were so ready, willing, and able to give up their rights, because we live in a country that is dominated by the corporate message.
Well, Pfizer and all. Well, I mean, there's definitely a collusion factor. I mean, is that something that you guys talk about? I mean, is there any reference to why these platforms were basically bought off and shut down what they were doing? Is there any trail, or is it just like, we know they did it because they did it? Is there any way to connect it?
Yeah, no, there are a lot of emails from the Biden administration where high up people on the White House staff were threatening tech company employees, basically saying, if you don't censor this, information, we're going to have to look at our options, what we can do about that. They were specifically talking about repeal of Section 230, which protects the companies from liability for what people say on their platforms. And it's very important to the companies because, if you could be sued for what anybody posts on Twitter, defamation, it's going to change the nature of social media. So, the administration making these threats had a huge impact on the companies. And they actually say in the email sometimes, okay, we're going to change our policies. We'll make sure we get rid of that vaccine misinformation. And one other point I'd like to make is the demands included removing information, true stories about like vaccine side effects. So people who are posting true accounts of what happened to them, the administration actually said, take those down because that might make people vaccine hesitant. And I mean, that should be scary to people. And in fact, we have a separate lawsuit that involves vaccine injured people whose private chat groups were banned at the government's behest. So they were like trying to seek solace in the company of others and exchange ideas for treating their vaccine injuries. And the government was didn't want them communicating with each other because it might spread vaccine misinformation. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The thing that really stood out to me, regardless of what anybody thinks, I mean, I did take the vaccine. However, one thing that that really made me see it in a different light, and I always knew that the element of trusting anything that was coming from Big Pharma was always to be treated from the perspective of they're probably not telling the truth.
Right. Like, we never promoted it by any stretch. I was skeptical of that from day one.
Problem was that when Joe Rogan, who obviously has the biggest platform outside of corporate media in the country, decided to say that I'm taking ivermectin, and their response to that is he's taking horse dewormer. We know that there are two kinds of ivermectin. There's one for human consumption and one for, obviously animal consumption. And the fact that they were saying that he was taking an animal used, type of medical product, to me, that screamed, okay, clearly they're trying to hide something here. And what I've always maintained is the biggest thing they're trying to hide is that this is the only major developed country on earth that does not have a universal single-payer system. Every other nation does, except for us, we have the for-profit system. And the goal is not to get people vaccinated. It is how much money can we possibly make off of scaring the shit out of the whole country. That to me was always the intent, and that has still not changed. I think that a lot more people are aware now, and I do agree with you. We've communicated with a number of people that have said that they've been vaccine injured, and I'm sure it's true. There is no getting around that reality. And while some people think that, oh no, we have to get away from the fascists, no, the fascism's already here.
Yeah, we're in it.
The merger of the corporate state has happened.
We're there, people. Welcome.
So denying that reality, I think, is a big, yeah. It's like you didn't wake up to. You need to wake up and smell the coffee, kind of thing.
Yeah. I want to be clear. I'm not taking a position on whether or not people should get the vaccine. I'm not. I don't have. It's just always should have been a choice. People should have had information. The government certainly shouldn't be involved in suppressing information about the vaccine. Yes.
Absolutely. Let me and this is something, as somebody who went to law school and generally likes to think things through with reason, the ability to separate one's personal opinion from the necessity of protecting our civil liberties is something that is just unfortunately so missing, unfortunately, on the left. Yeah. And it's very, very frustrating. And the truth is we've been seeing this since before my time even. Like, I remember the ACLU being given crap for defending the KKK in Skokie. You remember the case, the Skokie?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, right? So the people on the left are like, oh, it's so, and we're still dealing with that same crap. And it has to do with people worrying about their feelings about something and their personal life experience versus we're talking about the liberties of this. It has nothing to do with your opinion, Jenin, whether or not you would take the vaccine. It has nothing to do with that. It's just our right to have information.
Do you think that the general public will turn the corner before it's too late? Or do you think that we've hit a point now where trying to unravel the fact that censorship has become almost like a common mainstay nowadays? I'm not really sure which direction it's going in, but would be curious to hear how you see it at this point.
Oh, I hate to make predictions, but I mean, I think the country is really in a lot of trouble, as you guys have aptly identified. I mean, it's taken over by corporate interests. Congress is obviously, I mean, it's just, it's all a joke. Certainly two branches of government are a joke. I won't comment on the third since I work within that system, but I mean, I don't have a lot of hope, to be totally honest. I think, I do think that a lot of people actually recognize what's going on and they feel frustrated. And I am not a Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination. I actually cried when he got elected. I wouldn't go that far this time, but on the other hand, I understand that people were so frustrated with the establishment in Washington that they're like, okay, anything else, even that guy from The Apprentice, we'll take him.
Right.
Maybe that'll be something different. So I do think a lot of people see it and are frustrated with the system, but don't quite know what to do. And I don't blame them because we're so entrenched in this two-party system.
Yeah. And neither party seems to really care about our rights and liberties unless it's impacting whatever policy they're trying to put through on their own agenda. Then they care. Like, for example, in Florida, we have a very red legislature that is very concerned with parents' rights when it comes to being able to ban books from the schools and the libraries, because you can't have books that say things like, queer or whatever other gets their panties in a bunch, right? So parents' rights are really important with that. However, when it comes to gender affirming care, reproductive care, all of those things, then we don't really care about a parent's rights, and the state can actually come in and tell people what they can and cannot do. So it's just interesting how we use rights when it's convenient for us.
Yeah, and I saw that a lot. I had initially sort of would have considered myself more on the left. I found myself among a lot of people on the right when I opposed COVID restrictions, because it was just mostly people on the right. So I worked with them, and they claim to be such free speech proponents because of the censorship around the COVID issues. And then now that Palestine is happening, a lot of them are now calling for banning protests and speech that they don't like. And they're saying, well, it's anti-Semitic, it's hurting the feelings of students on campuses, and these people are threatening, and, just using the same exact kind of logic that people on the left had during COVID. their logic was, well, people might hear things about the vaccine and die, or they might leave the house and kill grandma, so it's dangerous. It's really sad to see the hypocrisy of almost everybody.
Yeah, but don't you know that feelings are more important than bombs being dropped on you? I mean, come on, you got to understand.
You know, when it comes to the students, like the Columbia students and all the people, like any of the Jewish groups that felt uncomfortable. First of all, I question whether or not there were really legitimate claims, or whether or not they were sort of hyped up to put out the image that they did feel threatened. I would need to have a conversation with someone to see if I actually thought somebody really felt threatened. I don't think so. I think that's bullshit. And then the other part of it is, even if somebody they felt I don't care. I just don't care. And I think more people need to take that approach. See, I'm concerned about the people who are being massacred. I don't have, you know what, that's on them, on the people that are making that happen, because I don't have the time or the mental energy to concern myself with a bunch of privileged Jews at Columbia that don't feel safe and like the safest country on the planet for them. So I just don't care.
Kind of like your Pilates friends.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I had a woman standing in front of my Pilates studio down here in Plantation, Florida, which is like the suburbs of the suburbs. I mean, and she's like, I just don't feel safe anymore. And I'm thinking, I've said it before, just end it now, lady. You will not survive this world. If you do not feel safe standing outside here and at Cleary and Nob Hill, I'll tell you right where it was. On people, I am telling you, you're not going to feel safe anywhere.
That's true.
So I just don't care that they don't feel safe.
And that's the power of the corporate media. But, since we are talking about civil liberties and we're talking about what, again, jurisprudence, if you will, we would obviously be amiss to not talk about what happened today.
Remiss, but jurisprudence was a good word for you.
I got some in my arsenal.
That was fancy. We would be remiss.
Maybe I could have been an attorney, but it wasn't
remiss.
for me. So for those of you who obviously have been paying attention, and I'm sure most of you have been, obviously the Supreme Court ruled 9-0, unanimous. Supreme Court restores Trump to ballot, rejecting state attempts to ban him over Capitol attack. Again, as you said, everything gets framed in a partisan lens these days, which I think is very dangerous. Again, we're not supporters of Trump, but we are supporters of due process. And there are a lot of people in the higher echelons of the political arena who really don't think due process is necessary anymore. And a lot of them were obviously very upset. And even though they want to frame this as a conservative decision, I don't know, when all 9 justices say this doesn't work, 2 things happen here. Number 1, justice does get done. And 2, this only makes Trump look better to the independent voter. Yeah. And it makes the Democrats look even stupider because they're still trying to fight it off by suggesting that the court ruled inappropriately today.
And I don't think they did at all. I agree with this completely. What are your thoughts, Jean? Because to me, I always thought that for a state to be using the 14th Amendment, which doesn't specifically say president and doesn't specifically say whether or not someone should or should not have due process. There was just a lot of iffy things in it. I'm like, this is never going to work. They're never going to be able to do that through their state and have that work. And then I was actually listening to somebody on a show today where they were upset that the court didn't address it was the specifics of that case, like the facts of that case. Like it was something about whether or not, they didn't address whether or not Trump in fact did commit an insurrection. And I'm like, did we not have Schoolhouse Rock? Do people not understand that the Supreme Court is not going to decide? You know what I'm saying? It's so off the wall.
Yeah. So I'll say it with the caveat, I haven't read the Supreme Court's decision, but I did read the Colorado Supreme Court's decision whenever that came out. It strikes me as problematic to have a court find that the former president is guilty of a crime he hasn't been convicted of. And it sets a really terrible precedent. I mean, I thought, people on the left are supposed to believe in innocent until proven guilty. We all are. And so what's the standard? I don't want to, opine on the specifics of the Supreme Court's ruling since I haven't read that yet, but it struck me as the right decision. And usually when all 9 justices agree on something, which is rare, it can't really be painted as a conservative versus liberal.
Well, I just have to come on here and let everybody know that it's very important. It was the greatest, most important decision that's ever been made in the history of the Supreme Court. And I put 3 of those justices on there.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah.
We are going to
Thanks for Amy Coney Island, by the way.
Excuse me, I'm talking. We are going to make America great again.
Again.
In 24, and you're seeing it every day. So remember, the Trump train still has room.
Oh my God.
If you want to get on board.
Janine, he's inviting you onto the Trump train.
You're a lovely lady. I understand that you might not like me, but you'll eventually grow to appreciate me.
You're kind of lechy. You're kind of lechy.
Yes, but I get things done, and that's what counts. So make sure that you go over to Trump.
The little hands is so ridiculous.
Excuse me. You're still supporting this campaign. You're going to get on board. We're going to keep winning. You're going to get so tired of winning, you're going to keel over and not know what to do. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be really great. So stay on board. It's a great ride. It's going to get bumpy every once in a while, but that's okay because eventually it will all end with us winning in 24.
Oh, yeah, you're a winner.
We'll make America great again.
Again.
In 24. Goodbye.
This is ridiculous.
You captured it. That was eerie.
Isn't that funny? Because the mask with the hands, like to me, it's like it really accentuates the small hand component.
Yeah, and it's always a combination of a few things. We go from Peter funny to please stop.
I know. Well, Chip. I don't love it either, but you know what? We get clips from it, and it's we got to do what we got to do.
Sometimes you really have to wonder if the intention of the way that it's being done is to get him back. But I have said this, and I will maintain this merely from a political observational perspective. I think if he gets in again, even if there is an element of the Democratic establishment that wants him back because they see it as a financial windfall of sorts, I don't think they will have anywhere near the success that they did the first time. I think there are too many people that are aware of this game in a way where it almost looks like they're trying to help him get back in there again because they see it as like, this is, again, you've always said politics is just a different form of, wrestling. Like
it's WWF. This is, and I always say F because I'm old, but I guess it's E now. Is it W? I don't know. It's Monday Night Raw. That's all I say. I don't know. But it's absurd. It's just so silly. I honestly don't know why people even bother to go to their press conferences and ask them questions because you're not going to get the truth.
Yeah, I've sort of started tuning it out, honestly. I used to pay a lot of attention to politics. And at this point, I'm like, really, Biden, Trump, it's just so ridiculous. I can't.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I honestly, at this point, I can't fathom how anybody who has any connection whatsoever to Palestine is not in sort of like having mental pain right now and not going through a lot of stuff. And there is just no way that the Democrats can overcome this. And they never should, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Like it's done.
Janine, I'm curious, we talk obviously about the fact that the two-party duopoly, the system in general is obviously, it's breaking. It's breaking. I think everybody recognizes that. But what I'm curious, from your perspective, let's say RFK is the one legitimate third-party candidate that really, he gets on the ballots, he's able to, potentially get, who knows? Well, let's just say he gets over 10% of the vote. Do you see a circumstance this time, a generation later from Ross Perot, where it isn't just going to be this sort of flash in the pan, okay, well, a third-party candidate did pretty well. Do you see a circumstance where a legitimate third party could actually get established as a result of this particular election cycle?
I thought so for a while, and I was actually over the summer, I was really kind of a fan, and I would, to the extent I could call myself that about a politician, I was really set to vote for him, and then he came out in favor of whatever Israel wanted to do in Gaza. So I unfortunately will not be able to vote for him, regardless of.
And what, you don't like Rabbi Shmuley?
not a fan of that guy.
Oh my God!
Real on top of who he is and what he represents,
so
he is a creepy guy.
Oh no, he's so gross.
Extremely. And I will tell you, I actually went to his launch in Philadelphia back in October.
RFK is not Shmuley's.
Yeah.
It took her a second. I'm like, yeah, no, Shmuley, thank God is not.
Although he did speak, and of course he thought it was
whatever.
A show, which is always interesting. But it was interesting to see the thousands of people that were there and the mix of all different walks of the political spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the danger.
Diversity.
It's so painful that he can be so bad on this issue.
Yes.
That he could fumble it all away. But
he could have it.
Yeah.
It could be his.
Yeah. I mean, look, a viable third party coming out of this is probably great, even if it's somebody who says Israel should do whatever they want in Gaza, including blow it to smithereens. I hate to say that, but
well, we're getting that regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
We're getting that regardless. So if somebody can smash the duopoly in the process.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in fact, I don't even know what Trump's view on the subject is. I'm sure he doesn't have a very coherent.
He moved the embassy to Jerusalem.
I did a great thing.
You know what? Now people will sit there and say that, like, well, but it would be worse under Trump. You know what? First of all, there's well, no. It doesn't matter because there is no worse.
Yeah,
there's genocide.
Right.
What's the worse?
Yeah.
Or else, yeah, they're shaking in their boots about Trump now.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's just the level of privilege for people that actually think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
In terms of threat to people that are in a bad way. Even in this country, people that are in a really bad way, that are working 3 jobs and busting ass and can't make ends meet.
Yeah.
People like that don't even have time to vote. They're not scared of Trump.
Yeah. I was speaking with a relative of mine, I won't name, and I was saying, well, it might be better under Trump. And she said, well, but he wouldn't be doing something better for the right reasons. And I was like, if you're in Gaza, I don't think you care what reason the American president has for putting pressure on Israel to stop this.
No, even if he does it to make himself look like the hero. Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. He has less of an attachment to any political ideology.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about him. And I think he's just a complete narcissist and that, but because he's not loyal to a party or an ideology, there is a certain amount of freedom for him to decide, especially when he knows he won't be able to run again. Right. I could be the hero. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot more opportunity for someone who's not connected with an ideology. Right. Than someone who's beholden to a party. That's all. And again, I'm not a fan. Didn't vote for him. Not planning on voting for him.
No, he's definitely looking for a legacy. But at this point, I just think that our system really is reaching a breaking point, and it's just a matter of not if, but when. When have enough people decided that they have had enough of what's going on? And that's why I think it was almost fortuitous timing that you came on this evening. It's because I really think a lot of times people are really quick to dismiss. And again, we understand that the issues that we specifically have when it comes to libertarians, they get the Constitution right, they get foreign policy right, but they believe in austerity economics, and that is not right.
That's where we differ from them. But you're not necessarily that. Again, this is the difference between civil liberties. You're not, and a libertarian is a totally different thing. Yeah. Go ahead, Jenin.
No, I'll admit I don't have fully formed views on the best economic policy. I tend to favor small government now because of how corrupt our system is, but I don't think that it's necessarily the case that large government has to be a bad idea. I think it does work well in other countries, reasonably well anyway. It's our system that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think, see that she's New Civil Liberties Alliance and just assumed libertarian.
I didn't assume that. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is
most of the people I work with are either Republican or libertarian. I
think if you're going based on honesty and integrity on Capitol Hill, for me, Thomas Massey's the best representative.
Yeah. I like Massey, sort of on principle. He has some views that are a bit out there.
That's exactly how he feels. It's totally principled.
Hey, he lives in the boonies of Eastern Kentucky, so it's certainly understandable.
He represents his people.
He does.
I honestly that's what I like. If your representative the representative is representing their constituents, well, if their constituents are conservative, then that's what they are. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. That's called a democracy.
But if you want somebody who is going to stand for the Constitution, full stop, Massey's the first person I think of.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate that it takes such an extreme economic libertarian, because he is.
Well, I was just thinking it's so sad to me when you said that you're mostly the people you work with are libertarians or Republicans. And that makes me so sad because I feel like at what point did the left decide that civil liberties were not our jam? Like, at what point is that? Because to me, I can't think of anything more leftist than our civil liberties. So it's very frustrating to me that somehow that is not the case anymore. And I don't completely understand it.
When the Democratic Party decided that it was more important to represent Wall Street and Silicon Valley instead of labor, That was the end of it.
No, I'm talking about, well, yes, regarding economics, but I'm talking in terms of civil liberties. So for example, I think a lot of it has to do with fear factor. I think it has to do with the gun issue. I think it has to do with stuff that are wedge issues where people are so scared into foregoing their liberties. And it just bothers me to no end that the left are like, why are they such wusses? Like, why are they so scared that they're so willing to forgo? Because I'm telling you, civil liberties should not be a issue.
Why don't we end on this note, Jenin? Who in the Democratic Party
is there anyone
that is, open to this, that is working with you, that we should know about, that maybe isn't getting enough fanfare?
Democratic Party, no. I used to like Tulsi Gabbard a little bit, but then she went full pro-Israel, so never mind.
So disappointing.
Tulsi went full. How is this going to help my long-term political?
How can I become a spot? How can I become the vice president?
Yeah, because she's in the running to get Trump's spot. There's no question that she is.
Yeah.
So anyway, and if she gets it, I guess it was all for that. So
that makes me sad, actually. Yeah. She's another one that I was disappointed because she needs to have principles.
Yeah. So you're telling me that between Raul Guevara, Ro Khanna, Katie Porter, AOC, Summer Lee, Cori Bush.
None of them.
Ilhan Omar.
No one's on civil liberties.
Even Rashida Tlaib. You're telling me not even Rashida Tlaib is open to this? You see, this is, to me, is sad.
Well, frankly, they all turned me off because of their COVID politics.
Again, it's why did the left have to be the wusses? Like, why did the right claim freedom? It's so frustrating.
I think because of Trump. I think it's just because Trump, placed some doubts about lockdowns and mask mandates and vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
Not vaccine mandates because that came later, but the left, everybody hates him so much on the left Democratic side that it was like, okay, Trump says maybe we don't have to lock down. Maybe this virus isn't the end of the world. Well, it must be the end of the world, and we've got to lock down everybody forever.
Yeah, our level of tribalism has caused us to lose our minds. We are no longer working with reason, and I reject that entirely. Yeah. I just cannot wrap my head around people that just don't use basic information and facts,
or doesn't recognize that it is our republic if we can keep it, and right now it doesn't look like we can.
It's not looking good, is it?
And it's all because of Donnie.
No, yeah, and that's the other thing. Yeah, it's all his fault.
Yeah, no, they were just looking for the scapegoat. It was just obvious we were heading in the wrong direction. Jenin, it's obviously been a pleasure having you on this evening. How can people find your work, follow what you're doing, and let's definitely keep this conversation
what's
going.
The connection for? Well, we'll have it in the description, but how can people follow along with these cases? Because I do think these are important.
I tweet about them. My handle is just my name at Jenin Younes Esquire.
Esquire is so fancy. Yeah. You know what? This is what I said when, Dr. Jill Biden insisted on being called doctor. I said that I was going to insist on being called Esquire. Because I think that if we have to call Dr. Jill, because you have a doctorate degree, I have a doctorate degree, then we're all doctors. Exactly. I don't know. I just find that it's so, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so pretentious for someone to sort of like command that.
Yeah.
It's just so, I'm a doctor.
That's
and I'm just laughing at Esquire because I actually have used that too in corporate phrasing and stuff like that. So I'm just joking.
Esquire just
it's actually because I had another account that took the other handle, or just at Jenin Younes, so I had to come up with something.
Right. So
I had like a private locked account.
Well, it looks bad. Esquire is fancier than lawyer. So it's sort of like, it's just, it sounds better.
I just have to say, you've definitely got the full DC setup. You got the cute bookcases, the plants, the guitar, the piano.
You
got a really.
Do you have a boy or a girl?
A boy.
Is this your first?
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to boy motherhood.
Thank you.
Have you learned to cover it when you're changing? Have you learned that?
It took me a few.
Okay, you learned the hard way. We all did.
I got beat on it times.
I feel you. I've got 2 of those.
Been a real treat. Keep fighting the good fight. We'll try to get you a Democrat or 2 to fight on your side at some point. And I know it's not easy, but it's obviously very important that we keep fighting to protect the rights that seemingly are disappearing all the time.
All of them.
And you're
Not
fighting.
just the ones we like.
Yep, and you're
Pick and
fighting for
choose.
them all, and that means a lot. So, guys,
Thank
please make
you,
sure to follow
Jenin.
Jenin.
Thank you so much for
Try to
having
get
me.
some sleep.
I will. Bye.
Have a good one. She
She
was great.
She a new mama.
Yeah.
That's a whole different world.
And we do talk about this all the time. You know, we do really take for granted this idea that our civil liberties are just going to be there. They're not.
There are
Things
already so
disappear
many of
all the
them are
time.
gone, and you don't even realize
Which
it.
is even more amazing because the left literally gets their pennies in the bunch, or just liberals in general get their pennies in a bunch about a woman's right to choose. Well, guess what? It's all interconnected. Bodily
Right.
autonomy is all part of civil liberties.
Like, I want to know, I'd love to see a Venn diagram and see where the people are, for example, that say they're opposed, they're pro-choice, but they believe Julian Assange should be extradited, or they're pro-choice, but they're okay with mandates, right? Like they're okay with mask mandates and all sorts of stuff like that. And it's so interesting to me how people do not see that rights are rights, and that it isn't about them personally and their feelings and all that. So it's very, and I would love to, like, this is the kind of geeky shit I would get into if I were like a research person, like a sociologist, like the idea of
Thank
where
you,
is that
Mario.
crossover?
We'll take that. I think that's acceptable. I think that's
Okay, you define that as left, and I define those as liberals.
yeah, I would agree.
But I mean, this is the problem. This is why I don't like labels. Because the reality
Labels
is
don't work.
Hillary is totally a neoliberal. They're all like is totally a neo. Well, all of those are for
The two
sure.
Clintons.
Yeah, they're all.
Even though she should be referred to as Hillary Rodham.
But the reality is that for the most part, most of like the Democrats that are your sort of what now is called a centrist, those are just neoliberals. And the only thing that separates them from the neocons is that they support a woman's right to choose. And they will pink wash you because they're so good to the Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and so, but really, they're really the same. Neolibs and neocons are basically the same, except for some of the social issues.
So, those of you that have been paying attention, obviously, I think it's pretty hilarious. And again, Trump obviously was able to win in court. He didn't win at the voting booth in Washington, D.C. Nikki Haley did. And
Which
I
is
almost feel like
funny, though.
it is, because I don't think you would want to be bragging about winning the D.C. vote, because at this point you want to talk about
Does it even matter? Does D.C. get delegates?
They do, actually.
Really?
Yeah. The District of Columbia is so disconnected from reality.
It's such a
that
you
at this
cannot.
point, you would almost expect DC to vote for somebody like Nikki Haley, because Nikki Haley, I think, has more bloodlust than even Joe Biden does.
Yeah,
So
she's very.
it would make
hawkish.
sense for them to want to do that.
Stop it.
What? I didn't do
You know
anything.
the thing with the
I
hands.
didn't.
You've been doing it the whole time. The thing with the hands.
That.
No.
Oh, stop. Leave me alone. So there was Colin. Why did you give me so many clips? This is too much. This is
It's
like
too much.
dude.
All right,
five?
don't kill me. I don't want to. We're pick one. Pick one that we like.
So apparently there was
Who's
as was
debating?
mentioned. These are third-party candidates. Now I don't
Ooh.
believe RFK was there. Let's see.
So where was this? There was a debate.
There was a debate amongst third-party candidates.
If you had a debate
Our
amongst
friends-
third-party candidates but didn't include RFK, that's kind of shifty to me because he's polling the highest.
No, I don't think he attended. I think that was a choice.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it wasn't like he was excluded.
No.
Okay.
So we have, you know what? Let's keep with the topic, because this is obviously very important right now, and maybe we'll play a few different ones. Colin, drop the free and equal Gaza Native Americans.
And I also really like the Assange.
Yeah. So we'll stick with the topic as to what we're going through right now.
Yeah, see, I'm right. That's using that language is good.
Yeah, free and equal. So the our guest, forgetting her name right now.
Jenin.
No. Our guest that came on not too long ago that was spearheading the coalition, I think it's Free and Equal Elections, that was doing third-party presidential debates. And this was aired on C-SPAN.
Oh, wasn't that Angela?
No,
From
not,
the Libertarians.
not Angela McCarthy.
No.
This was Colin, who was the, I'm sorry.
We have so many people.
Meg-
It's hard for me to remember.
I remember a lot of things, but this is just one in particular that isn't coming to mind right now. The name of the lady who had come on
We had so
to
many.
talk about the importance of having a third-party debate.
And we were
It's very
originally
true.
going to be discussing ranked choice voting today, which is interesting. And then that sort of had to get postponed.
Yes.
But so
this is an important conversation regarding what's going on in Gaza. So let's hear what some other presidential candidates have to say, because clearly the current president of the United States doesn't really have much of anything to say. It's of considerable substance.
he's too busy with his ice cream.
I'm sure it's delicious ice cream.
It's probably
Let's keep
good
in
ice
mind.
cream.
He's the president. You would think he's getting the best
At
ice
this
cream.
point, to me, anything
Totally the
less.
best.
At this point, I'm like a total snob with the nitrogen.
Okay. Christina Tubin of Free and Equal. She organized this event.
I'd have to see her.
So let's see.
Okay.
I think the whole point of being someone who is a third-party candidate is to not continue the status quo. I do.
Okay, so first of all, the idea that she's running in the unicorn party, I think, is just
And
what a
here's
way
the
to start.
thing. And here's the thing. Seriously, in all seriousness, if I wasn't interested, like into politics and know what I know and cared, but I was just somebody that was just like done and just I don't give a.
Give me the unicorn party.
Honestly, first of all, she's got purple hair.
The
now,
color just works.
It just does.
It's
And because if you're going to run under the unicorn party, you should have purple hair. But honestly, no, if I were someone who was just at the end and had zero shits to give, and I went in and saw the ballot at this point for president, I probably would vote for the unicorn party.
All right, here we go.
Do not see the purpose in preserving houselessness, hunger, starvation. Like those are things that are happening not just in Gaza, but right here. We have people who are malnutritioned right here in the United States. I understand that the focus is people are worried about too much socialism. What are you going to lose? What are you going to lose? But you don't have to lose anything for someone to get a bigger piece of the pie if we stop funneling all our money overseas to bad guys and to corporations that don't pay taxes.
And so it's important for people to unite together.
She lost it right there. She addressed it. She was almost going to get it. She said, you don't need other to have a bigger piece of the pie, but she still went with the pie. So she got that we could all have if we stop sending money there, thereby bringing back the pie. So see, this is the problem. I know too much. This is what I said. Like if I would have to know nothing and then I would just be okay with that. She sounds like there's no pie, unicorn lady. There's no pie.
Across the political spectrum, across left and right, it's not a left versus right issue, it's a right versus wrong issue. And when we talk about the 13th Amendment and the fact that we have legalized, constitutionalized slavery in this country, I read a story yesterday about a young man who worked for 136 hours and sent his prison money that he worked 136 hours to the people of Gaza for relief. How much money did he get sent? Under $18 because he was paid 1.3 cents an hour for his labor. We do have slave labor in this country. If you live in Louisiana, your governor's mansion is being cleaned, vacuumed, and the toilets being scrubbed by prison labor. And so it's
the one thing that the libertarians are actually correct about, even though they do have the austerity bend in their economics, but here's the thing. They are absolutely correct more than any other political faction about A, how much we waste in this country, and B, how much we take advantage of working people.
Well, and very anti-corruption. They're very anti-corruption. Do we know, does anybody know, is this gentleman their actual nominee yet?
He is, considering that Dave Smith is not going to be running, Chase Oliver right now would be considered the front runner to get the Libertarian
But he doesn't
Party
have that yet. He does not
yet.
have a nomination yet. Okay.
important for us to speak out that the government is abusing people, and corporations, large corporate interests, are the people who are invested in making sure that we are subjugated by our government, and we should oppose it at every level.
And I just wanted to extend the connection between the indigenous people of the United States, that is the First Nations of the United States, and the indigenous people of Gaza. Just noting that there is a very active and horrific genocide that is underway right now. Regrettably, you know, there's a horrific history of genocide of indigenous people in this country. And that is ongoing, though low grade, but that continues the oppression and the hardships, the sickness, the poverty, the drug addiction, and so on. There is active harm to indigenous people in this country that needs to be rectified, but there's also a very active, full-blown genocide going on in Gaza right now. And
I think it's important to note, and we will let you guys know ahead of time because that's what we do for our audience. Jill Stein will be our guest. Today is the 4th. She will be our guest 2.5 weeks from now, Thursday at 1 p.m. on the 21st. She's
I've never met Dr. Stein. And here's the thing about this Dr. Jill. She's actually really, really a doctor.
Well, technically, any doctor, you're
I'm
really
so
only
tired
supposed
of
to have the. Do you know what the technical the technicality is when it comes to calling somebody a doctor? Do you know what the technical requirement is?
If you have a doctorate degree?
If you can prescribe medication, that's technically what it's supposed to be. So,
well, that's what I always grew up thinking was sort of like that was more of what was our understanding. But in terms of technically, yes, if you have a doctorate degree, then somebody could call you doctor.
yeah, I agree. All right, let's keep going.
Very critical that we call that to an immediate halt and cease all funding for the state of Israel, stop supplying weapons, and basically apply a national BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions program towards Israel.
That's bold. That's bold. I haven't heard any of them say that. I mean, well, Claudia probably would say the same thing, but that's pretty bold. And again, I'm not making endorsements. I'm not having endorsements. If somebody who is running for president of the United States is willing to come on our podcast and talk to us, we're talking to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we support them. It doesn't mean it. Chances are they're going to be similar to us, or they probably wouldn't be willing to come on our show. You know, we're not big enough that somebody who is like completely out there is going to want to come on our, from us is going to come on our show because there wouldn't be anything to gain. But I am not going to are you kidding me? We're a small potatoes platform and somebody running for president of the United States will come on and talk to us. Of course we're going to do that.
Colin, please drop free and equal Assange.
But yeah, I do not endorse anybody other than, you guys know, I support Dr. Cornel West.
So here we go. This is about Julian Assange.
Support pardoning any or all of these individuals: Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Ross Ulbricht, and Leonard Peltier. Are there any other people besides the ones we just listed that you would want to pardon? Yes, no.
Yes, I agree with that, to pardon all those people.
Who's he?
Great.
Yes. Free all political prisoners.
Thank you.
Yes, and among the many who are incarcerated for political reasons, the man who basically identified that drones kill the wrong person 10 times more often than they kill their actual targets. He, too, is rotting in a high-security prison now.
All right. Jasmine.
Yes, Daniel Hale, thank you.
Daniel Hale. Jasmine?
Yes, I'm abolishing prisons and giving people who need help house arrest so they can get the treatment they need with our universal health care policy.
Yeah, she really is a unicorn. That's for sure. It's the purple hair. You're getting drawn in.
I'm drawn. Well, the truth is that anybody running under a unicorn party is going to obviously sit there and speak to my soul.
Yeah, and just say everything that isn't going to happen, but still nice to think about, I guess.
I'm letting all of these people out so they can begin thriving in this country.
Chase?
Absolutely. It'd be the first thing I would do if I were elected president. Right after I take the oath, would be pardoning all four of those. I would also pardon anybody who is a truth teller, a whistleblower, anybody who's currently in prison for any crime to which there is no victim, such as drug crimes, sex crimes, or any other crime to which there's no discernible victim. We need to release these people out of prisons because that is why we suffer so much problems in this country.
Thank you.
I'm liking him.
Isn't it amazing how easy it is to tell the truth when you're not bought and paid for by corporate?
Because every single one of those people were able to tell their truth.
Yeah.
As opposed to any other time you're looking at candidates and they're like so beholden to whoever they're beholden to. So they can't even say it if they'd want to do such a thing. They have to like check with their sponsors. Can I say that?
You know what, Colin? This is pretty good. Let's do one more. We'll do the free and equal environmental justice. Let's see what they have to say about that. That'll be interesting.
I want to know who that other guy is. So hopefully he'll be talking.
Chase Oliver?
No,
the guy,
other
yeah.
guy. Yeah,
All right, we'll see.
I don't know who that is.
PFAS and other forever chemicals contaminating the drinking water of 3,000 communities and affecting an estimated 200 million Americans.
That we know about.
Right.
Just remember.
I
could be
for every
drinking
rat you
poison
see, there's
water
50.
right now.
Well, not if you got that out of my refrigerator.
Well, because you're just divine and,
Well, no, because that's filtered.
reverse
and
osmosis. I'm just saying. All right.
What
here
I'm
we go.
saying to you
Here we go.
is that's not tap water.
Actions would your administration take to hold the responsible parties accountable for this pollution?
If we want to live in a cleaner world, we have to stop letting government pick winners and losers with regards to energy. What kind of energy is most subsidized by the government today? Carbon-based energy, oil, natural gas, other things. I don't like government picking winners and losers in the marketplace. I would deregulate energy entirely, particularly nuclear energy, so that we can get more of that online, which burns clean, can provide so much power, certainly more than, say, a natural gas or coal or anything else, and also is much safer. And people.
So this is the big issue here, and this is the one that we've talked about at length. And I am a proponent of nuclear for one reason and one reason only. It is the only way in the foreseeable future that we could get off of coal and natural gas. And so if we want to get off of it, if we want to stop fracking the shit out of people, especially working people's land, because remember, rich people's land never gets fracked.
And it's also, let's talk about indigenous people.
Correct.
Because
Oklahoma, Colorado, where do you think all this happens?
It's always, first of all, it's always amongst people that are what we would consider poor people. People that have means don't get pipelines built under their house, but it's very specifically communities that are very vulnerable and get no attention. And indigenous communities are definitely high up on that list. Is it me, guys, or does he look like a very kind of straight Sean Hayes? Let me know if you think I'm like making that up.
I could see that.
All right.
People are scared of 3 Mile Island or Chernobyl, but I remind them, those are very rare things. We only see that once in a generation. But what we see is we see thousands of coal miners who have died from lung disease. We see thousands of people suffering asthma and all sorts of effects from carbon-based fuels. So I would like to see us get back to sensible policy, remove those tort caps, and let polluters actually pay when they do something wrong.
Again, this is where the libertarians I want to see.
Yeah, it's where the libertarians get it right.
Well, they do get it right, and they really have a sense of they have much more of a sense of justice.
Yeah, here we go.
Actually, bros out corporations with tax code. With the tax code, they're able to give favors to the rich and to the elites, and then those corporations are basically in cahoots with our government, and that is why they're able to get away with these things that we're talking about, where they're.
Okay, so since he doesn't have
since
he doesn't have a title, I think he just snuck on stage and decided that he's going to say the things that needed to be said. I'm not really running for president, but I kind of have an opinion. Here. I need to share this. With you guys.
Maybe Kennedy didn't show up. They had the empty podium, and this guy just stepped in.
It's like, all right, listen, I'll fill the spot. Let's go.
They're able to cover up things, where they're able to mask things and to reduce the penalties that might come. If we let the market take care of itself, the communities will be able to rise up and will be able to be taken care of. We have to let our government function. And part of that for me is that we can't have career politicians, because career politicians lead to corruption. So I'm in favor of term limits. I don't think that people should be in office for 40 or 50 years, because that lets them get in bed with these corporations much more, and that leads to these bad outcomes.
All right, he's forever known. Does it say?
Yeah.
No, who his name is? Okay. He will forever be known as the cahoots guy. He used the word cahoots. I appreciate that. And so that's it, the cahoots. Also, I could not tell whether or not, but I'm thinking he was sporting a ponytail.
Yes, I think he was too. So if anybody can find out who the guy is who just snuck on the stage.
And where the hell is Vermin Supreme? Where the hell is Vermin Supreme when you need him?
So I think Dr. West should have been at this debate.
Why wasn't he, though?
I don't know. Apparently, he's in California, according to Nelson, with the Libertarian Party, which again is interesting.
It is interesting considering the Libertarian candidate was there.
So it's another Libertarian candidate, Lars Mapsteed, or Stead? Mapsteed, I think he would say.
It would be Mapstead.
Mapstead. Are you sure?
Unless you're in the UK, and then it probably might be Steed. But I would think it would be Stead here. So again, I'm not a linguist. We should get Noam Chomsky on. I'm sure he would have the answer to that.
I think if we are being particular.
I'm just saying we need a linguist on that. I do not know the answer, but I'm going to say Stead in how we pronounce things here.
Fair enough. I do think that really does make a difference.
There, okay.
I don't know. It's always nice to see more people coming in.
Hi, all.
Make sure if you guys are watching on Twitter, join us on YouTube. That is where we have our conversation. So if you want to get in with everybody else, make sure that you join us there. We've got 47 watching live on YouTube right now, which is great.
Everybody hit the like button.
Hit that like button.
We're starting to grow. You can grow with us.
Slowly but surely.
We are, and I say we're small but mighty.
If you're on X, got 22 watching live over there right now. Come join us on YouTube.
It's creepy how people know how you're watching, right? Like it's so big brothery to me. I find it creepy that, and he's always checking it.
Watching me.
It's creepy to me. Oh my God.
How to do it. So as
it's
you
like I don't like that.
Lars Mapsteed from the Libertarian Party. So that's who is.
Okay, first of all, love the name Lars. Like seriously, right
so
there.
So close to Mars, like Mars bar. I'm just saying. It's just what came to my mind. We're playing charades, just come up with.
You just
little
think of
anecdotes.
like, to me, Lars it sounds very Norwegian.
Oh,
to me.
absolutely, Scandinavian all the way, 100%.
But I'm with that.
So you had Claudia Dela Cruz of the Socialist Party, you had Jill Stein of the Green Party, you had Chase Oliver of the Libertarian Party, you had
The purple hair with the
we'll
unicorn
just call
party.
her we'll just call her Unicorn Lady.
That's rude, because I don't like the term unicorn lady.
The Unicorn Madam. What do you want me to call her? I don't remember her name. I just remember that she had purple hair and she's
The
part of
unicorn candidate.
The unicorn candidate had Lars Mapspeed, also of the Libertarian Party. Now, of course, there is no Dr. West, and I think he should have been there. Those are the opportunities if you're really running a serious campaign, even if you don't have a lot of money. You need to be on stage with those other candidates. You need to be forming coalitions, because when it's all said and done, it may only end up being one person that is running as that third party option. But you know what? If it's an option other than Biden or Trump, it's going to present something to the American people that they haven't really had in a long time.
Right. And truthfully, after RFK, Cornel West, I think, is who, like, I saw some polling where he was like the fourth, like he would have been like the next person. There was nobody in between RFK and other third parties.
We are going to talk about RFK because there is a video that he just put out recently that, again, speaks to what I have been saying for the longest time. If you're dealing with the current capitalist system and why we are in such trouble when it comes to our current market and why people's ability to actually build wealth, have the ability to potentially sustain, long-term success for their family, that is completely out the window now at this point, at least as far as I can see. And the only person who's really talking about this, particularly when it comes to BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, is RFK. And he, of course, is not running within the two-party system because anyone running within it would not say anything about it.
No.
That's why Jenin Younes comes on tonight and says no one from the Democratic Party even comes to talk about civil liberties. How broken of a system do you have to have when not a single member of the Democratic Party can talk about the constitutional rights?
You know why that's so weird to me? Like, growing up in my household with my parents, who were definitely hippy dippy, but like they were always Democrats, but they were always about freedom and civil liberties. Like, those two things seemed so intertwined to me, and they were definitely what would be considered on the left. And so now that is out the door. It makes me sad. You know what? I reject that. I say we bring civil liberties back to the left.
That would be great. But of course, RFK here has a lot to say, and we're going to talk about it. So here's the clip.
Price of housing go up because we spent $8 trillion on wars and $16 trillion on COVID, which we didn't have. They print money, which caused the price of everything to go up.
So let's just, and that's a great freeze frame right there. He's totally channeling his Trump base in that spot. I hope people recognize that. So here's the problem with what RFK is saying. Is he right that printing money causes inflation? Yes. However, he's not addressing it from the MMT perspective. The reason why inflation is happening is twofold. One, the money is being printed and it is only going into a select few people's hands.
Who are price gouging.
Do they have to? Of course not. But this is the same argument that I have given time and again.
No, they're making record profits.
100%.
So if a company's making record profits and yet the prices are going up, that's a sign that it's sort of like the jig is up. We see you.
You could say that the jig is up and then
we see you. It isn't just from printing the money. That's not the thing. You know the thing.
You know the thing.
It isn't from printing money.
So if you're not going to talk about modern monetary theory in the context that we have, if you want to talk about a pie would work well here. So you have a pie and the money is printed and it's supposed to go evenly distributed through the pie. Instead, what's happening is that about 1% to 2% is actually getting all of it. And then they're determining how the rest of it's getting dispersed. And I can assure you that how it's being dispersed is not going to help working people at all.
It's not a pie.
I'm using it in context
I
so
know,
people can understand.
but I know we need to like stop saying, we have to stop reinforcing that. I feel like every time we have a guest on, I feel like I correct everybody now. I feel like I do my best to explain it as rudimentary as I can, make Steve proud. But like, I feel like we have to consistently be calling this out.
And again, Jesus, yes, but you're looking at it again from a libertarian free market perspective.
It isn't just about supply chains.
One element of that is not the only part of it. That's not what it is.
Because Oh God, Bo did a great piece on this about that. Yeah, it got to a point when it was no longer about supply chains a long time ago.
Right.
Okay. So for a very short period of time during COVID, yes, for a very short period of time, there was a supply chain problem. That is not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is corporate greed piggybacking on that and using everything about COVID as a slush fund for them to like get more, like a bailout.
Big time. All right, here we go.
2 years ago, the average cost of a house in this country was $215,000. Today, it's $400,000. There's three.
That is absolutely correct.
It's
And that is
insane.
in absolute insanity.
It's insanity.
And all the while, they're creating this austerity economy where everyone knows that in terms of housing, we're behind anywhere from 3 to 4 million homes. That is insane. And that could take a decade, maybe more.
But what is that number based on? Because I got to tell you, I see a lot of empty units and a lot of empty places. So what is that? I don't. You're going on unhoused people.
You're looking at it from the unhoused people perspective. The problem is that you have
That's the only perspective I care
What
about.
you also have is a lot of well, again, this is the thing about corporate housing, which is a big part of the problem. Corporate landlords, if you guys are not familiar with them, the one I can tell you about because I lived it when Jen ran for Congress, I had to stay in a home that was part of Invitation Homes. Now, let me tell you, that was a nightmare.
This is definitely not a plug.
No, this is a nightmare of epic proportions. You literally are renting a corporate landlord's home. And if there is ever a problem, it is not the landlord's problem. It's your problem.
Yeah, we
So
need to
you
get
gotta
rid of
deal with
that. And that, to me, that is one of the biggest problems. We need to get rid of corporate like home ownership like this.
Oh, absolutely.
And I am not exactly sure the ways in which the thing is to be done that way, but I know there's really smart people out there that have thought this through.
Henrica Jawa, always great to see you. Your brother paid $25K for a large row house in order to keep it out of the hands of a corrupt. We are looking at this now, and I'm in commercial real estate, and I look at it as how can I avoid having to deal with Blackstone, State Street, and Vanguard? How do I avoid having to? Well, you can. You just have to make the moral choice, and the overwhelming majority of people are not going to make the moral choice. They're going to make the economic choice.
Right.
Whoever's going to give them the most money is where they're going.
Which is where we want the government.
That's when the government
in
has a place.
And step in and say, no, we're not going to let the housing industry screw our people. We're not going to let the pharmaceutical industry screw our people because we are of the people and for the people, and we're not of those industries. That's what we want to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Here we go.
Giant corporations, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. They also own 89% of the S&P 500. They've now decided to buy every single family home in America. If they stay on the current trajectory, they will own 60% of the homes in this country, single family homes, by 2030.
I
don't think you understand how absolutely insane and dangerous this is. And the fact that he is the only person running for president, he's the only person that I know of that's running for office of any federal capacity that is saying this.
This is people don't realize how important this is, because basically this is what it will return us exponentially to that serf class. Like we are returning to the peasant class where we work at the behest of our lords who own the properties, because that's very scary. One of the biggest things in this country that came about after, it was even before FDR. Just the whole concept of that your home ownership is your wealth. That's your nest egg. And that is one of the things that a lot of groups of people have been precluded from having for forever and a day. But now it's pretty much everyone is going to be, the majority of people are going to be precluded in a way that they have never been precluded before from having that nest egg.
Yeah.
And that's really scary. You're pushing more and more people into insecurity.
You're right. Here we go.
Your kids do not have a chance to buy that home because they can't outcompete BlackRock. I'm going to try to change the tax code to make it unprofitable for those companies to compete against your children. I'm going to make a mortgage available to Americans at 3% interest. I'm going to finance those mortgages by selling tax-free bonds on the open market.
Okay, so here's the key.
I can't validate it, but it sounds like a plan.
It is a great plan. And the reason why he's saying 3% is because we currently do have FHA loans in this country that start at 3%. What he's basically saying is we're going to open it up to everyone who is not part of these mega corporations. If that is the case, 3% is of an interest rate that we saw prior to the insanity of the COVID pandemic, because now interest rates are more than double that amount, and people cannot afford to pay that, at least not the average person. A 3% mortgage rate is probably the cap where people reasonably within the working class would be able to afford to do it. And so that is an ironclad policy position that a presidential candidate is espousing that I overwhelmingly support. This is absolutely correct. And the fact that no one else is talking about it, but because you don't like my position.
It sounds like the truth is I do not in any way understand enough about housing interest rates, any of that economic mumbo jumbo. But the fact that somebody is stating a potential solution is always going to get my attention. Okay, so here's somebody who has a plan. That's cool. I'm with a plan. I also bet he believes in raising the tax rate. The corporate tax rate. He's probably in favor of a lot of things in the tax code that would benefit people. I still can't support him though.
Got to get right on Israel, baby.
And at this point, it's too late. But I still appreciate that somebody's putting forth a housing plan.
Sure. Here we go.
To first-time home buyers who will live in that community, who will work in that community. We need to create housing for teachers to keep the best teachers in our schools.
He's right.
We have that problem with all industries everywhere. We have people that can't, most people that I know that are working people, okay, not people that can conduct their business by phone call while their driver is taking them to and from offices, okay, like working people. Most people I know that are working people don't live anywhere near where they were.
No, we see that.
Very few people that, I almost have never, I don't know.
Well, we've seen that in law enforcement. Like that's a common thing.
That's its own kind of problem.
Yeah, of course. But that's another problem. You know, we'll see people that live around here that are working in Miami, which doesn't make any sense. You're not working in your community. You're not building roots. You know, those things are not happening. Whereas here, RFK is addressing this problem head on, which is the complete foundational rot within the current economic system. And there is no saving it because not enough people are willing to say that we have to end the private equity industrial complex because that's where it starts.
You can't fix problems you don't acknowledge.
Of course. The idea that you can work on a computer screen all day, every day in the heart of Manhattan and San Francisco, and all you're doing is just moving money around and you are getting rich beyond human comprehension for doing nothing. You're not actually creating anything.
Well, that's the case for a lot of industries. And I know that as someone who used to be in advertising.
Yeah, it sounds just like it's like a Mad Men type situation.
It is. Well, yeah. Oh my God. I would have loved to have been there in the day. Oh my God. The martini lunches, the Madison Avenue. I mean,
that was a real thing.
The style. Oh, Mad Men with that show. I love, first of all, I was a Mad Men fanatic. Loved it. There was never, ever, in my opinion, up until, and I have to think it through right now because there was recently someone that I thought of that might be coming, that is kind of coming. Oh, yeah, I know who it is now. But to me, Don Draper, hands down, to me, is like, has been like the sexiest character on evening television in Forever and a Day.
I worry I might be sleeping one day under a highway overpass. Scary, heartless nation that could care less about humans' health than helping others. Now.
Yeah, I can't even like begin to wrap my head around how so many people that are in power positions to do something about stuff not only don't do something about it, because I recognize that we're at a point where bureaucracy, red tape, partisan, tribal hackery has consumed us. But it's infuriating that not enough people in power positions say something. Say something. You know, at least it's very, very frustrating. Well, and here's something I've noticed here. So we live in Plantation, and there have been a lot
of Plantation.
Well, I always wanted to take a sign. There's a lot of signs when you're driving into Plantation. It's like, welcome to Plantation, just like that. And I always have this idea of doing a picture and putting the word the, and then the picture without the word the, and saying articles matter. But anyway, so in Plantation, they're doing a lot of development, a lot of high rises that are supposed to be live, play, work communities. Like, and Dane is doing that. Like all these like municipalities are doing these live, play, work communities. I am very curious how many people that work at those places can afford to live in those communities. For example, I don't think that the people that work at the Chillin' Nitrogen ice cream place, which is my favorite place over at that new thing.
It's good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried.
The people that work there, I cannot fathom that they could potentially afford to live in those apartments that are right there. So that's my thought, is live, play, work. And I ran into a commissioner in Plantation not that long ago that was very proud of this whole live, play, work thing. And it's someone that I would imagine, to him, it all makes sense because he could afford to live, play, and work wherever he wants to. But I don't think that a lot of those places are really the kind of housing that is what I'm thinking we need to have. You're building housing that is unattainable over retail stores where you want worker bees to come work. That's what we're seeing as work, play, live. And then you're putting in a really expensive gym and fitness center that the people that work at the places near there couldn't afford to join.
Which is also the problem with not having a living wage and universal health care.
Did you run our patrons?
Yes, of course I did.
Okay.
And Danny, always great to have you.
Danny.
We do need to put white-collar criminals in prison. They're the ones
Yes.
who never go. And when they do, they go to a country club for a few days like Epstein.
Club fed.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, and this is where I'm willing to negotiate the for-profit prison system. I am actually okay with putting, like, let's say, pharmaceutical executives, people that have real body counts attached to them, people that are just the people that have stolen more money and hurt more people, those types of people. If those are the people that are incarcerated and you let all like the nonviolent drug offenders, the people that are in there for crimes of poverty, the people that just, don't have any other options, you let all them out and you put all the white collar criminals in there, I don't think I would mind people profiting off of it so much. I realize the hypocrisy in that. Forgive me. I'm just saying, like, in theory, it wouldn't bother me as much if we're profiting off of certain people.
So for those of you who are paying attention, and obviously a lot of you have, I put a tweet out the other day on Jen's behalf, even though it wasn't perfect, but it was as close to perfect as you can get in terms of the reach. So addressing the fact that...
But the disclaimer you want to make is...
I wrote it. And it wasn't exactly as Jen would have intended.
Nope.
So I want to put that out there. But I also want to say thank you to those who have been moving that tweet around. Colin, if you want to pull it up real quick, it's been shared by a number of people, including...
You want me to go through and say, like, what I would do?
No, I just want people to see just how... I think we're at 80,000 likes and like 20 some.
Yeah, and I mean, we've never hidden the fact that it's Peter on social media, but
I always try to speak from Jen's.
I know that he does, but it's sometimes, and we argue about this because I really do not like him posting in first person, and it's something that we have been having as like an issue for a few years now that I'm constantly like frustrated with. But when he posts in first person, it's when I get kind of like, but it is not me. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's not good at all. Now I'm going to have to call the bank and figure out what happened. Who knows how they sent it?
I just want to let you know.
I know, but I'm so sad now. Oh, for God's sake, because I brought it with me to the bank and had them put it in with their mail.
So for those of you who saw this, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but now you can. Colin, pull the full scope of the tweet, please. Show the numbers. So this was... yeah. All right. So there you go. So that's where we are right now. We have gotten over 20,000 retweets, almost 80,000 likes. It's been seen by almost 2 million people. But the message that needs to be espoused.
I've gotten some interesting emails.
Yeah. So what I will tell you, and this is what I've always said all along pertaining to what's going on in Gaza right now, there is no question that AIPAC reaffirmed their position earlier today that they fully intend to spend $100 million, which is just absolutely incredible, in this election cycle. Even though AIPAC is backing Biden for president, they want you to know that they are going to spend $100 million against currently incumbent Democrats in office to get them out. Why would anybody vote for the president ever again? Why? What's the point? They're basically telling you, we control everything. And we will decide, just at the drop of a hat, we will weigh whether or not we want this guy or that guy. It's just a matter of how much money we want to throw in that direction. And by the way, if you even attempt to speak out against our genocide we're committing in broad daylight, oh, we'll knock you out of office. Why do you think everybody's silent?
All right, I have to correct the one thing though.
Jen was not bat mitzvahed in Jerusalem. She was bat mitzvahed near Tel Aviv.
Right. It
My
was
mistake.
in a town called Hod HaSharon, which is
So
outside
for
of
the
Tel Aviv.
so for you Zionists out there that are going to listen to this and want to know exactly where, because there have been people debating whether or not you actually were bat mitzvahed in Israel.
No, I
So,
was, we had I was there with a group, and there was a group of us that did it together, and it was in Hod HaSharon was where we were staying, and that's where it was, which is, I think it's a suburb now. I mean, I don't know, this was 87. I mean, it was a long time ago, but yeah, it was in Hod HaSharon.
As a result of the reach of this tweet, Jen was able to connect with somebody who she had wanted to speak with for a while. Her name is Ciara Rao.
I am not even going to attempt to pronounce the name. I think it might be Sarah
or
I don't know.
So anyway, Ciara.
I'm pretty
sure, because usually SAI is Sarah.
Okay, Sayara. And she and I'm drawing a blank at the other woman's name right now, had wrote a book called White Women. And it's not white fragility. It's not that. It's just sort of like I don't know. I had read it and really liked it. And so I had wanted to sort of talk with her, and I want to say the other woman's name is something Jackson. But yeah, and so she'll be coming on, and well, I thought she reached out. She reached out from this.
What she did was she screenshot this, put it on Instagram. That went viral on Instagram, and then we connected that way. And she was like, "Yeah, let's do a podcast."
Yeah, I know that. I believe I'm trying to think if is she Palestinian? I don't know where she is from. No, she's Indian, but she is a person that comes from, a minority group of people, and they wrote a book, and it was really good. So, yeah, we're going to have her on and chat. Apparently something here speaks to her. Go figure. She's not for genocide. You never know. Sometimes you find kindred spirits out there in the world.
You'd be surprised how many people are not for it.
You would be. You would.
Given
the trajectory, right? Given the trajectory that we're on, you really would be. But I got to tell you, most people are not down with genocide. They're just not.
Yeah.
We're not with that. So.
And the person who has been outspoken the most, because of those of you who have been paying attention, and it was kind of, again, an auspicious moment for this tweet to go viral the way that it did. Over the weekend, there was another March for Gaza all over the country. And the person who spoke at this march that really stood out above everybody else was Susan Sarandon, who has really been able to kind of hit every note that needs to be hit, especially when she's addressing her class, because Susan Sarandon comes from the real 1%. She is a very wealthy woman who has lent her privilege as a working class Italian from New Jersey and has been exceptionally successful at her job in a way that Deborah Messing only wishes she could have been. This is one of those circumstances where her speech was really addressing the people within her ranks that are afraid to say what she is saying. So here we go.
Napoleon said, and this is Napoleon Bonaparte, not the Napoleon Dynamite. He said, war is when the government tells you who your enemy is. Revolution is when you figure it out for yourself.
I love it. Do you think she'll remember meeting me that time?
She'll remember that the Rangers lost the game.
But you think she'll remember meeting me? I'm the lady who was 2 rows behind you and you turned around and said hi?
Oh, that'll be interesting to see what happens.
She will never remember that in a million years.
And we know who our enemy is. Our enemy is hate. Our enemy is racism. Our enemy is colonization. Our enemy is greed. And our enemy is silence. The silence of those who look away when you see crushed children, starving babies, wailing mothers, fathers digging through the rubble to try to find their families. This is unacceptable. Now, disrupting the narrative of the powerful, fighting for justice can be lonely work. It can be exhausting. but nothing compared to what is happening in Gaza, in Rafah, for the Palestinian people that have been going through this for 75 years.
She's right.
Yeah, it's actually longer than that, but yeah.
It is. And she has the stones.
It's over 100.
Yep. She has the stones to say what needs to be said. And you're not going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle on this one. You bit off more than you can chew. Netanyahu turned into a hog, as Jen likes to say.
She is a Rangers fan, though.
Yeah, oh, she's a diehard
I'm just putting
hockey
that out
fan.
there. Right? Yeah.
She's a hockey fan.
Yeah.
So is Tim. Here we go.
Speaking inconvenient truths can lose you your livelihood. It can lose you friends. It may lose you family. But I want you to look out now at this sea of umbrellas and people here, because we are your family.
Maybe she'll come on now. Tell her we're family. Do we have the number? She just said we're family. Maybe we could get her on now.
That would be great. We'll try.
Okay.
But Susan is also speaking to the reality that there are people in her ranks that are afraid to speak up.
She lost her agency.
Yeah. They said, oh, well, yeah, we're kind of in bed with the Israeli lobby, so there's really not a lot we can do about it. Sorry.
Now, we know that we're not worried about how Susan Sarandon is going to make ends meet, and neither is she. But the reality is there's no way that didn't hit her livelihood to lose your representation and whatever other deals she could have had in the work, whatever.
But that's the thing. It's not the
she
point
took a hit. It's just relative. So clearly, again, we're not worrying about her, but it's like
I hate to reference this, but it's a Jersey thing. The thing I've always wondered about Springsteen in particular and why he never spoke up the way that he needed to, he employs so many people. He is somebody who employs different people in almost every major city that he goes to. And it's why when he does these big events, he's always doing them on a grand scale. He's doing them at stadiums. You got hundreds of people, hundreds of union labor workers that are out there working. Well, if he speaks up and says what he says, the next thing you know, Columbia Records might tell him, yeah, we're not doing your music anymore.
You have to be willing to walk.
And Susan Sarandon was willing to walk. Now, granted,
she didn't question it.
No. Now, granted, Susan Sarandon is very wealthy, but she was still willing to walk. She is still an entertainer. She is an artist of the highest order, and she's a real actor. She's from New Jersey, New York. Like, she's from where actors come from.
Damn it, Janet.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I don't think she likes
Everybody loves the Rocky Horror Picture Show except
doesn't.
her.
And so we won't.
We won't go there.
It's classic.
It is. But there's no question that
she took a loss, and people don't realize that. Like, so yeah, you have money. You also have bills, you have expenses, you have dependents. You people like her pay for other people's kids to go to school and whatever else she does. And so when you cut off your income, whatever that level is, it affects you. But it sounds like she's lost friends.
But she didn't lose her humanity. No. And a lot of others did.
No.
And she's going to be vindicated one way or another.
You are not alone. As he said, there are hundreds more across Manhattan, hundreds of thousands across the United States, millions globally who are standing for Palestine, for justice, for a ceasefire. Millions of people who will keep showing up, who will keep organizing, who will keep speaking out, who will be loud. And we must embrace each other and thank each other and encourage other people to be brave and come out for what will ultimately be proven to be on the right side of history.
She's right. She is on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Even if she feels like she's standing alone, or at least has felt that way for quite some time.
I get that.
And when it's going to happen, I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard. And I will say, though, that amongst like my community, like the people that are on the same side of this has definitely been kind of like bringing those people all together. There is definitely a lot more solidarity and camaraderie that I'm finding amongst people that I wouldn't have necessarily had before. So it's like you're definitely making a trade. but we've just got to be consistent on the right side of history on this. Like, there's just there's no other option. There is no other, there is nothing else that I don't know any other way to be on this.
Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you click that bell if you haven't. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a patron of our small but mighty channel. You can also become a YouTube member, or you can go to Cash App if we have our Lulu sticker floating somewhere. Here she is. You still get that Lulu sticker if you are inclined. We may have some other stuff to give away at some point. We'll let you know about those items. Got some important stuff coming up. You guys will find out about it soon enough.
We're working on some projects.
Yeah, just know that, we can't stand on the sidelines. This is too important. And for those of you who obviously know what part of the country we're in right now, we are in sort of one of the eyes of the hurricane that exists within the Zionist community. It is unfortunate, but it's very real. And again, it's a class war, because the Zionist class are not your average Jews. They are affluent, of the highest order members of the Jewish community, as well as members of the Christian Zionist community, which is also pretty big, although it's not big down here.
No, in our district, we just have a very large Jewish population. So it's disproportionate to the world and the country, right? Like, our Jewish.
Thank you, Chip, right?
Oh, do I think that they've gone too far? Oh, they went too far in 1967. As far as I'm concerned,
is this going to be the end of the road?
Oh yeah, they're only. I mean, you got to go back and watch the interview we did with Colonel Wilkerson on this.
Well, you've radicalized an entire multiple generations.
Because now, what I was saying before is, so now what I'm saying is, they've made it so that they're not going to just be able to end with a ceasefire at whatever point that is. This will end at some point. Okay, I think heinously with a genocide of millions of people, but this will end.
And remember remember what we said about what was reported by Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! There is up to 1 million Palestinians that are now suffering from famine-related disease.
It's like I've said, the chain of events was set in place. But now, more than a ceasefire, now you again have 50-plus countries going to the ICJ and demanding an end to the occupation. So because they got so big and so greedy and just so massive with just very bold. So now I think that actually hastened what will inevitably be the end of a Zionist state. And at some point in the future, people will look back and say, oh, that was a failed experiment. That didn't work out so well. And at this point, it's just people that are like the musicians on the Titanic that are just still standing there with it. It's going to take a while for it to go down. But this is untenable.
Things are going to be up in the air for Thursday. Right now, we are scheduled for 1 o'clock. That could change. There are a few balls that are being juggled right now. I'll leave you with this. We've been fighting for the longest time to try to enact some type of local change as best we can. It's not easy to do, but I do think that there are people that have at least acknowledged that what we're trying to do is helpful.
And my parents are not ashamed of me. Someone sent me that.
That's great.
Somebody had posted that I did all those Jewish things and I turned out like this. My parents must be so ashamed of me.
I don't think they are. I think your parents are very proud of you. And I think that you've done a great job.
I'm just saying, I was just going to say they're not. They're not. I could have Sissy come on and tell you all about it, but they're not embarrassed about me.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. But one of the main reasons that we've been doing what we've been doing is because our representative at the federal level is somebody who is as outspoken in favor of the Israeli cause as anybody you will ever see. And most of it is because of financial benefit.
I think so, but I also think she believes it.
I think it's a combination of both. There is no question. And to know that our federally elected representative stood on the steps of the U.S. Capitol and declared that not only is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism, but that if you don't support my resolution declaring it as such, that you don't have a soul.
However, I will say that if there is anybody that is an expert on the soulless, it is our congressional representative.
So
I can't think of anybody more capable of talking about not having a soul. Perfect.
And maybe one day that person who knows a thing or two about what it means to be soulless will finally get their comeuppance. I don't know when it'll happen. But
we're going to need to have some group counseling here. You don't like my music. I don't know. I mean, I know everyone's situation is different, but you know what? I would tell you, just as somebody with a lot of, years of therapizing, philosophizing, whatever, you can never attribute someone else's feelings to them. So you feel that that's their thought, but you can't say that they are, because you don't know that unless you're in their head. And even if they've said it, that doesn't even really mean that they are. It just means that maybe they lack the emotional maturity and the fortitude to be honest with their feelings or even know their own feelings.
That's true. Every accusation is generally a confession.
Yes.
And I know that happens a lot more on the GOP side, but my goodness, there are some really bad Dems out there. And apparently none of them really do believe in the civil liberties that we are supposed to be protecting. Or even if they do, they're too afraid to stand up and speak on it. Yes, I would say that would be quite a horror show, to say the least. So just we're letting you know we're going to try some things, and who knows what may happen in the future. But remember that change does not come easily, and generational change is even harder to come by, because the ones who have been controlling the levers of power for too long, they're not going to give it up.
No.
You're going to have to literally rip it out of their cold.
And that's going to require everybody kind of coming together to do so.
Yeah.
In multiple ways.
Which is why we have people, which is why we're going to be communicating with somebody. Let me tell you, we're going to be communicating with somebody very soon who you're going to just think, there's no way that there could be any common ground. There's no way that there's anything in common with this guy. And trust me.
You're talking about CanCom?
And trust me, there is. There is. You just have to believe.
Well, and I always say this, if people would stop labeling themselves, because what happens is when you say I'm such and such, then you don't know what that other's perception of that is, their level of ignorance, what they think of that label. And then now you already have a barrier that you've put up between you as to what you don't agree on, when you really don't know what that person's concept of that label is. Please stop with the labels. I can't stand it. I just sat there and spoke to this guy. We agreed on, I would say, like 95% of things. And he considers himself a conservative. He believes everyone should have health care. So I'm saying that, like, we really, right. I'm just saying that we need to stop with the labels, and we need to stop buying into people causing us to sort of be like in these little information silos where we just, it's very frustrating.
Ray J, Ghislaine Conspiracy, Henry Kajawa, Carne Verde, Nelson Ortega, you don't like my music.
Carne Verde, you do know that we don't eat meat, right?
Steve Grossman, Chris Garrett, Chip, Sable, Mario,
be like Pescado,
Randall Giovanetti,
Pescado Verde, and then
yeah,
I would
Pescado, definitely.
Pescado Verde.
Fish tacos.
Well, Verde is green.
Shrimp, yes, I know. Shrimp fajitas. I'm getting hungry. Ronwell, Red Cloud. Who am I missing? What was
Mario.
that? So when I said Mario, so smart, so stupid. I doubt that.
But that's the cute avatar.
Yes. Well, me, myself, and I, Brian. Great to have you as always.
All the very usual people.
Danny Wyndham, of course. Anybody else that I haven't mentioned? Metal, of course, Metal.
We appreciate you guys a lot.
Metal's here. We want to make sure everybody
Ray J.
knows. No, I said Ray J.
Okay.
Who's the first one I said because you're the last one that commented.
Okay, Schultze.
Schultze, obviously happy to have you here, Schultze.
All of our people.
Yes.
We appreciate it. We do. We appreciate it.
We do. I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
Maybe
so we're
there's a
still
few
not
others here
completely
and there.
sure about Thursday.
Yes.
But we will, most likely it'll be Thursday evening.
We will be. Jimmy Zim Zam.
Jimmy Zim Zam.
Jimmy Zim Zam. That almost said, you know who that. Well,
Jimmy Zim Zam.
Yeah. Well, she calls him Jimmy Jim Jam.
I don't know.
I think that's what Steph calls him.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Well,
Nelson Ortega.
is what it is.
Okay. Thank you guys.
You guys have all been great. Obviously, the conversation's been very flowing. Arlene Chambers.
It's really nice
Jesus,
to talk to like civil liberties.
Carla
lawyers.
Harrington.
Yeah. Travers.
Chugachu.
No.
Chugachu.
Chug-a-chew.
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 Chug-a-chew? Is that what it is?
Yeah, chug-a-chew.
Chug-a-chew.
Mapstead.
That's definitely a new name.
Chug-a-chew.
We got up
That's
to
a good one.
We're getting 50 consistently.
That's good. That's good for us, guys.
Yeah.
We're hitting the big time.
We're definitely making our way.
We're hitting it big. 3+ years in, we get 50. We're excited about 50 live viewers.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to take away from anybody else, but the truth is, we've done this all on our own with very few exceptions. We've built this up. We haven't had the aid of a big name. Keith Stone. You mean like Keith Stone Light? Remember, my name is Keith Stone.
Idiots versus morons.
Yeah, that's always good.
That's about right.
Yeah, well, isn't that kind of what we're just? Well, no, it's like.
I think I'd rather be an idiot than a moron.
Well, it's what South Park did years ago. Do you want a giant douche or a turd sandwich?
Right. Well,
Because
that's when
what
you
get
asked me, like,
reduced
who's
to.
my favorite president? When you asked me those questions, I'm like, that's
Teddy.
absurd.
You cannot tell me that there isn't anything good about Teddy.
I can't tell you. No, but
I buy it.
none of them are good enough wherein I would say, yeah, I like that person.
The self-care maven, JT Drum Shop. Always great to have that comment. It definitely is appreciated. I think that about rounds out the group for this evening. I know we've gone Bass Chad Thunderjock, of course. What a name. Wonder if he even looks like his name. Wonder if he's just using that as an avatar. Like so many people on social media.
We're going to have to find out I'm sure we'll get some. Well, no, we won't necessarily find out if the polling was really bad about Kamala. We might not ever find out that they did polling. Like if they thought that this would be like test the water, see will people swallow that up? Yeah,
Ella Gregory. That's another name that we haven't seen.
No.
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of new people that are starting to
Yay,
catch
new
on to
people!
what's going on, so.
Yay, new people!
Yes, we got our Instagram up over 4,000 followers now, which is
that I don't even what
that was a big jump. No, it was like we've gotten a few hundred within like the last day, obviously, because
I don't know what's
that
a
got
lot
out
for
there.
Instagram.
Holly Horn, TM Martin. How come you didn't stick around for a while? Josh the Junkie.
Because people have other things they have to do.
But
Not to mention it's late.
But we're very important.
She's probably
people.
hungry.
No, we're very important people.
We are very important people.
We are. We are.
Not really.
So, and Brian St. Pierre, Asmuth setting. So I think I cleared everybody. I think I gave everybody their just due.
Everybody is special.
Everybody is here.
You're special too.
It is.
Won't you be my neighbor?
It is a class war, nothing more. And I think Mr. Rogers would probably say the same thing.
There is no, like, to meet people, you don't understand. Like, Mr. Rogers is like.
Yeah, if you've never seen that video.
He's up there. Like, that's like Dolly to me. Like, Dolly, Mr. Rogers.
What happened to my voice has been a succession of problems that I've sustained over the years, but I was sick with, I think it was meningitis, if I remember.
He had
correctly.
a literal throat situation.
And so I don't talk like this on purpose.
No, not that it's not on purpose, but he doesn't have like something that is cognitive.
It's true. But we are, like I said.
I'm pretty sure you can look it up what exactly it was.
Yeah.
And it's not a secret thing.
No, but you guys have been great. And like I said, we're obviously very appreciative of each and every one of you. We will keep you posted on any developments coming up. As of right now, as we said, Thursday, no definitive set plan. Again, 1 o'clock is possible.
I know. Seriously, is there anybody better than Mr. Rogers?
He was great. So keep that in mind.
Dolly.
Well, she's still here, so let's not get too.
That's what I mean. That's
Jen is going to be in therapy when Dolly.
You don't understand because she's the last. Like honestly, if I were to
put her in
like
cryo stasis,
honestly, we should be protecting that woman at all costs.
Yeah, well, freeze her.
And
freeze her for future generations.
Like that's like
They're
the
gonna need to
last
bring her around when it's
person.
necessary.
That's like the last person that like when she is no longer around, I'm gonna be I'm not. I don't even know.
Thursday is going to be a big day. It's State of the Union, so
that'll be interesting.
It really will. So we'll see.
But
all right.
Yeah.
So with that said, we appreciate you guys. Make sure to smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do, and we'll see you Thursday.